What? How you doing?
I was gonna spit my gum out just because. Here, hold on.
Okay, put the gum right there. Right there?
Want her to find
Okay, get rid of the
on
gum.
the floor. It's right there.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, tonight on the Outfit Radio Show, here at this beautiful Santa Cruz Boardroom, TC has the evening off, and I am here tonight with one of the great people here in this town. Awesome athlete, awesome pro skateboarder. You've already got got fans in here, and this is Mr. Emmanuel Guzman, who is going to tell us what's been going on. He's been on a show probably half a dozen times, but we're going to find out what's going on with him tonight and check it out. Stick with us. It's going to be a great show. Buddy, how you doing?
Good.
Nice to see you.
Nice
Okay,
to see you. Yeah.
thank you. And so I saw TC mentioned the other day to me when we were talking about him. You coming on the show? You're doing some coaching with some kids, right?
So yeah, since the last time that I saw you, I've had a few different new things kind of happen. One of them being this skate camp that I did up at Scotts Valley Skate Park.
Yeah.
I was approached by Jason Strubing, and it was a temporary kind of summer thing.
Yeah.
And it was working with kids ages 6 to 15, and I had already kind of wanted to do that in a different light, like we had talked about on previous shows.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
when Jason, asked me if I'd be interested in this, I just thought it would be a really good opportunity to see what it was like actually working with kids in that setting. And obviously any opportunity to get to skateboard and make a little extra money is awesome. So I did it and I ended up loving it. It was a super just cool experience. I'm pretty sure every kid that did it enjoyed themselves also.
So were there kids there that had some ability and kids that had never been skateboarding before came to camp?
Totally. Yeah. So it was structured for everybody. It didn't
Right.
matter if you had ever set foot on a skateboard before
Yeah.
or if you ripped. It was really more about building your confidence individually, and in that process developing your skills. So whether if you didn't know how to skateboard at all, then I was there to help you build the confidence to want to get on that thing and learn how to step on one and how to balance and how to push. And if you were already skilled and you had tricks or you had tricks that you wanted to accomplish, I had everybody set goals at the beginning of every week. So if your goal was to stand on a skateboard and push, then that's what we focused on working with that individual. If your goal was to learn 360 kickflips, my goal was to work with that individual on that. And then it was neat too because, like I said, I wasn't BSing the kids. If they weren't ready to learn certain tricks and they were trying to bypass the appropriate learning process, then I was there to pull them back and to slow them down and to remind them this is a thing of patience.
Right.
This is a slow learning curve. It's hard for everybody, and just teaching them those kinds of philosophies and instilling that mentality help them to not be so hard on themselves and not to expect progression to happen overnight. And with that, it gave them the drive to show up the next day and see if maybe it would happen then.
Yeah.
And maybe show up the next day, see if it happened then.
All the kids stick with you. They all stayed.
They did. It was insane. I had a couple of people that were pretty timid. The first day of camp is when it typically happened, and it was hard for me to see. I really wanted them to give it a chance because I knew they would enjoy it if they did, but also I understood that it was overwhelming to be surrounded with 15, 16 other kids, all of whom have a more verse history in skating, or they're better at skating than you, and so it was really encouraging for me to see that if I just showed a little bit of encouragement towards these kids that were feeling kind of vulnerable and a little bit more timid in that moment, and that being part of the whole process of the camp of this is also confidence building.
Plus you had to build trust with all the kids.
Had to build trust, but what I kept telling them all, and this is something that I believe in, I wouldn't have told them this if I didn't believe in it, is that you've already shown up, and in life that's half of everything. So the fact that you're here is commendable, right? Here you are, you're out here, whether you're crying and you got snot running down your face, you're here.
Yeah.
So pat yourself on the back for that. If and when you give it a chance to the next degree and you want to actually join the rest of the kids in the camp, I promise you I'll make it fun for you. That's one of my goals. One of my goals is to make sure that everybody has fun. I don't want kids to sign up for this week of skate camp and then have it be a bummer experience, right? So
how important was the equipment that you had or showed you or gave to them or helmets?
So yeah, that was huge. So obviously there's a little bit of like a conundrum as far as me wearing a helmet and then all the safety gear that I expect the kids to wear. So every kid was mandated to wear a helmet, of course. That's a no-brainer, you know, no pun intended.
Right.
It's like, you got to protect your head, you have to protect your brain, especially at that young age. You don't want to have an accident happen, a concussion, anything. So it was really important to me that safety came first.
Yeah.
I definitely encouraged the kids that weren't super confident or able to fall the right way to wear their knee pads and elbow pads. And then one of the things that we worked on one of the first days with every single class was falling. So I got all the kids familiar with where their knee pads are and how to use them and where their elbow pads are.
Because in watching some of your videos, it seems like you know how to, when you fall, you seem to be doing it in a way where it doesn't hurt as much.
I mean, I typically get back up. It doesn't mean that every once in a while I don't get caught off guard.
Right.
And even with my like experience in knowing how to fall, I mean, there's a lot of times where yes, you're falling dozens of times while trying to trip. So if you don't know how to fall right, you're gonna get hurt.
Yeah.
And so yeah,
so falling is just as important as skateboarding.
I mean, it's as important as learning the tricks. It's more important. It's self-preservation. If you don't know how to fall right and you really want to get good at skateboarding,
right,
it's just not going to happen. You're just gonna get hurt. So
right.
It's preventative. It's preventative, and being confident and knowing how to fall is huge. And just knowing that I can get out of this. I know, you know, where I'm going to put like what limb down in what position. You're not going to panic and go throwing limbs out when you're up in the air and
right.
you're caught off guard. And
right.
that's something that we worked on as well. Is like, it's better to fall forwards, right? You can see it coming. You know it's coming. Even if you might have to put your hands down, you scrape your hands, your elbows, your knees. You're at least doing that. When you do this motion, you slip out and all you see is blue.
Yeah,
that's bad.
Yeah.
And most times people panic and put a limb down. You don't know where your limb's going to land. That's when you get hurt.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, building confidence with falling was also huge. The kids that knew how to tumble a little bit, they weren't as good at falling as they thought. So we worked on tumbling, you know.
When you started skateboarding, were you told that?
No.
No, right.
No. I reminded them a couple of times how lucky they were to have someone like me to coach and guide them along in the whole process to either avoid falling or to get out of stuff better, because I had, you know, anything but. I had like my friends or older brothers and his friends sitting there heckling me before I even tried it, and if I failed, and it was only amplified. So it's, you know, it's cool to get to help them bypass some of like that harsh part of the learning curve, because it's already pretty painful when you fall, and it's already pretty intimidating, and so I was really like just blown away and proud of every single kid. It honestly took me back to see just how much confidence every kid built throughout the whole process.
Who first put a skateboard into your hand?
The first person to put a skateboard in, well, I you know, I had brothers that skateboarded, and I had some friends that I had met in school that skateboarded. I didn't own one myself at the time, but I went out and acquired my first skateboard on my own. I went out and I bought an old board from a friend of mine.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, a used board, and that was where I got my first board. But no, there were no hand-me-down skateboards or anything like that at that time.
And so you just continued to practice. Where did you?
Nonstop.
Right? Nonstop. Where?
Nonstop. Well, at first, just in the parking lot of the complex I lived in, just right below my apartment. And then once I was able to roll and able to kind of be a little more mobile, I had some friends that lived in the neighborhood, so kind of SoCal area, Santa Cruz Gardens area. That was sort of our stomping grounds, and that was the to and from, you know, route to school. And there were friends' houses along the way. We would stop off and skate stuff. And that was the beginning of it, though, was elementary school.
When did you? How long did it take before you knew? You know, I'm pretty good at this.
It was a while. I mean, it took a while. Not as fast as the other things that I felt like I had athletic prowess in, like soccer and baseball. I feel like I got good at those a lot quicker.
Yeah.
Skateboarding was surprisingly challenging, but because I was so young and because it was so hard and because I was able to do it to some degree, and I had some encouragement from my brother and from like peers.
They weren't heckling you, or they did, as well as heckling you, did they encourage you?
Well, eventually they saw that I was getting better, and when you see someone progressing fast at skateboarding and you know how difficult it is, then you see that there's some athletic potential there.
Yeah.
And you start to look at that individual a little bit differently. Instead of giving them such a hard time, you want to encourage them a little bit more. So, sure, at first I pushed Mongo. I pushed with the wrong foot. I never, I heard the end of it, like when my brothers would see that. That was a very taboo kind of way to push back then. And if I was scared to drop in on something, these are like first time learning curves, but it gave me a little extra push to probably do it, wanting to impress them.
Yeah.
But it also, I wasn't safe from being heckled like any one of them if I goofed up. But
your first skate park you visited was?
First skate park I ever visited was probably Derby.
And how did you? And when you got there, this was your first time there.
First time there.
Did you fit in, or were you?
There's no one there. I remember really vividly. I was staying at my friend Brian's house, and his dad told us that it was a sleepover on a school night. And the next day, the dad said, "We're playing hooky today. We're gonna go to Derby." And the dad used to skate, and he had a couple of old skates for us, and he had pads and helmets and stuff. I think. But what I remember is getting there and it was empty, and then walking in the snake run, because the snake run to me at the time was almost head high, and I just remember that comparison of how big I was, and the snake run felt like it was about that big. Now it's like this. So that's just a reference to how young I was. But I didn't really skate at that moment in time. That was more of just, we went there and I didn't know what skateboarding was. I didn't know what that place was. It was just some weird spray painted organic, thing. And
did you find out what it was?
Eventually, not for years to
Really?
come. Not for years to come.
Yeah.
And then I knew, I've been here. I came here that one time.
Yeah.
My buddy, and his dad. But no, it was a long time between that visit and then the next time I went there, because growing up here on the east side, honestly, as I got older and I grew into my early teens, I just had no business going to the west side. I didn't really surf, so I didn't go surf over there. And if I did go over there as I got older, it was really just looking for trouble. We'd go to house parties and we'd try to crash them, with our little crew and create some ruckus. So I really didn't end up going and spending adequate time at Derby until I was already in my mid-teens, and skateboarding, transcended any of the other local beef. I just was already out there doing it all over town. So,
And which skateboard did you look up to? Was there any
one in
particular, or?
So locally, I remember when I would go to Santa Cruz High, I would always be real starstruck if I would see pros, and that was typically where you would see pros. It was a really notorious street skating spot, and so that gave it validity. As far as back then, there weren't skate parks. When skate parks first came around, it was almost looked at as a corny place to go out and do it. It's why would you do that when you could be out in the streets, in this urban setting where it was born? Skate parks are corny, kind of, And
you sure feel that way?
No. I did for a while. I kind of thought for a while skate parks were altering the face of skateboarding, and they were making people a little bit less hungry to go out and explore and search for stuff, because they had access to these perfect facilities that were just permanent, and they could revisit time and time again without any sort of issues. But part of the fun of growing up skateboarding in any town is learning about getting kicked out of spots, and knowing that you gotta barge certain spots real quick before you get kicked out, or you gotta dodge this security guard or that security guard. You get familiar with some security guards, start giving them nicknames. It's just part of the fun of it to me. And so when that got taken away, and it was kids are just going from their house to the skate park, they're skating past all the spots, that sort of takes away a little bit of that organic, why don't we go cut into this business and see if there's anything to skate in there,
Would you teach that to your kids that you just coached? If they kept with you for 2 or 3 years, would you teach that?
You know what? Yeah, I don't know if I would teach it. I definitely wouldn't discourage it. I don't know if I would encourage it, just because, again, as a role model, I don't want to go out there these days and tell kids go out there and vandalize someone's property and be a nuisance, and then be disrespectful when you get kicked out. I would tell them, just like anything, don't be afraid to question or even challenge authority on occasion. If you're being respectful and you're being polite, you might learn how to interact with people in a way that kids your age won't for years to come. If you go to that spot and the person tries to kick you out, and you're calm and collected,
and you have a right to be there,
and you're being polite, and you say, hey, you know what, we're just here skating, we're not bothering anybody, we'll stay out of the way, blah blah blah, and that adult looks at you and goes, okay. You're not gonna have that unless you put yourself into that scenario, right? And so my mom was the same way. Like, she wouldn't encourage me to go out and get skating tickets, but if I got a skateboarding ticket somewhere because I was skateboarding, doing my thing, and like I wasn't supposed to be, and there was a sign mark, you know, she would go, well, let's go see where those signs were. Let's see if there's a way we could fight this. Like, I'm not opposed to you being there, and if the ticket stands and the cop's like in the right, then you get the ticket. I'm not going to tell you can't go out and skate.
Did you get out of a couple?
One time I did. I got out of one because the cop didn't show.
Yeah.
And then another time, I think I actually got the ticket. I think that there was a similar scenario where I tried to use the sign location, you know, as a
Right.
as an issue, and like I had it all drawn out, but there was other signs posted. Anyways, my mom was never gonna like deter me from having those experiences. She wasn't like, again, going to encourage me to go out and vandalize and be disrespectful. And if it happened, I wasn't in trouble, but I also, like, if I had handled it anything but respectfully, maybe it was different. But as long as I handled myself well, she was like, go out and get another ticket. I mean, you're just skating.
Right.
It's like,
So who was the skater you looked up to?
so, oh yeah, back to those guys. So, Ron Whaley, Justin Strubing, Israel Forbes. Those were probably the three like notable pros at the time that I would see at Santa Cruz High and that I would see around, and would always be starstruck by them. There was definitely other just local, you know, kind of rippers. Like, there was other local people at the time. My brother had a buddy that had a mini ramp, Brian Starn, and him and these two twins, Matt and Tim Lochner. They both ripped. Like, there was this older group of people that were already, they'd been skating for years by the time I discovered it, and so I got a good first-hand introduction to like what real good first-hand skating looked like back then.
Right. Because you learn, because skating you learn by watching somebody else.
Totally,
Right?
yeah.
You're not getting it out of a book.
There's a lot of visual information to take away from watching and observing.
Right.
And so, you know, that's another advantage. Kids these days, there's so much material for them to draw from them to go and learn and watch and observe. And they have ultra slow-mo. They can really,
Right.
you know, nitpick the phonetics of like skateboarding. But no, watching and observing is huge.
You have many videos.
Yeah, no, I've had over
on
10
YouTube.
video parts. I've had, and then I don't know how many online videos
Yeah.
there are these days. There's a lot have been lost in the backwash of the internet, but
The one that gets to me, the one that I go, you're gonna be nuts. Is that one off the freeway, right? That
okay.
ramp that you end up crossing the street and end up with, looks like you're back
Hit a curve. Oh
hit a
yeah,
curve.
I got smoked on that one. That was in Athens, Georgia, on a skate rock trip, and it was just a spontaneous thing.
I think the cops came and then they left, right?
Yep, cops came, saw me try it once, thought I got probably hurt, and like didn't want to deal with it, and so he left. He dipped out, and we kept skating it until I kind of got it. I mean, there was no way to really get out of that one, but I was just rolling the dice, seeing if there was. You never know unless you're trying.
Right.
So yeah, that was one of those ones, but it's still, I mean.
And it's videos of you failing and failing and failing and failing, right?
Totally.
And failing, and then you just go, dude. It looked like you obviously got hurt, but you don't stop. You keep doing it.
I mean, that's, I think, like one of the most valuable, healthy things like that I get out of skating and the skateboarding does for people is that somewhere in the struggle of trying to land a trick and falling and getting back up and falling, getting back up and falling, getting back up and falling, believing in yourself and trying to visualize the trick through all of that other stuff, the focus and the determination and the perseverance. I mean, if you were to translate that physical feat into other areas of life, it's something that we as people don't really challenge ourselves to do that often, and so every skateboarder that takes it upon themselves to go through that process is actually really strengthening their mind. They're really strengthening their focus. They're really strengthening their willpower and their ability to see themselves through to the end of something and
Right.
overcome all that other stuff. And so, yeah, I mean, it's one of the more valuable things that you get out of skating is the failure, because it teaches you the success and the sweet, you know, like.
Because you have a lot more.
Yeah.
Because you obviously have a lot more failure than you do success.
Yeah, totally.
So once you've done a trick, wherever it may be, you've tried it 40 times, failed 39
50,
times,
100,
50
200.
Really?
Oh,
That
yeah.
many?
Yeah.
Get 200. You finally do it. Do you do it again?
Sometimes if it filmed crappy or you did it crappy, sometimes you'll try a trick for 50 tries and you'll finally land it, and you land it horrible.
Right.
And that's not gonna cut it. So you're back at it. And every once in a while, like I said, there is.
So you have to land it almost like a ballerina's doing landing.
Oh, you have to land perfect. No, but there's magic to behold within that process. Like I said, every once in a while, you'll be done. Your legs are done. You can barely stand. You're so fatigued. There's no way that this insane feat that you tried with fresh legs 6 hours ago is going to go down. You're dehydrated, and then you land on it, and you almost ride away, and all the adrenaline that you had left, it gets sucked out of you, and then you keep trying, but then within 4 more tries, let's say, you actually make it. And you teach yourself something in that moment right there. You teach yourself that when you think you've pushed yourself to the limit, you can always push yourself more.
Yeah, because it's in here.
And you will surprise yourself with what you can accomplish. So I have not only done it myself, but I have witnessed it with other skateboarders countless times where they have been at their end. They're at their end point, and then they land the trick. And I know what goes into that, and I know the feeling, and that's not something that you acquire overnight. That's a strength and a conditioning that you develop over years, understanding that dynamic.
Right. If you got to the point where I can't do it, I'm stopping.
Yeah.
Or you had, I'm going to come back tomorrow.
Typically, it's because you're physically so exhausted that you can't physically continue on, and you have a life to live. You have to take into account the next day, the day after, the day after that, day after that. You already foresee a week in advance. If I don't stop now, I'm literally not gonna be able to walk until Thursday.
Yeah.
And I have this and this going on. I have to stop right now.
Right.
And we'll come back again when my legs are better, when my body's better. But no, there's times where you have to throw the towel in, and it's defeating, but it's never again the end all. It's up to you. You make up the ultimate decision whether you want to come back or not. So
how did you become did you become a professional skateboarder? How did that arrive at your
doorstep? I just wanted to. I really wanted that to be my life, and I really tried to learn what it was going to take to do that, and then I tried to execute that path. I had a lot of good advice, good family, good friends, good mentors, and then I think I just had the other right things that it took to be in that position. I was personable.
Did you go knock on Santa Cruz Skateboards' door?
Basically, I had.
You did?
More or less. I mean, I had a friend bring in a video, but no, I'd already put a lot of work into this sponsor me video by the time I was ready to present it to them. I had already gotten to a point in my mind professionally that I needed to approach them in a way that was going to resonate, and even at 14 years old or however old I was, I knew that a sponsor me video would be one way to show them, wow, this kid, whether his parents put it together for him or he put it together, there's some wheels spinning behind the scenes. And so when I had my friend who worked there at the time bring it to them and they saw it, we spoke on the phone.
How old were you at that time?
I was 14.
No kidding.
Yeah, and I skated to Johnny Cash, Folsom Prison Blues. That was one of the things they commented on. We were surprised to hear someone your age skate to Johnny Cash.
You integrated that song into what you were doing?
It was the music behind it.
Okay.
But so I had saved money and hired this woman that my mom knew that had the necessary hardware to dub VHS tapes back then. So I was taking little tidbits of different VHS tapes to make the master copy.
Right. You still have that video?
Oh yeah. A lot of work went into that video though, and I had to save up the money for it, And so, like I said, by the time I presented that, there was already a story behind it that they got to hear, and then that's when they think to themselves, well, this is the era of kids that are talented dropping out of school and putting all their eggs in one basket in skateboarding. We would like to probably start looking at maybe putting on kids that have a little bit more drive in other areas of life, and just maybe a little more ambitious, and just this one facet. So
you weren't the only 14-year-old kid they hired. Was there other?
No, there was other kids too.
Okay.
I don't know how they all got sponsored. There were some kids back then that already had agents and stuff, I'm sure. But for me, that was the best approach that I had access to at that time. So I did it the old-fashioned, straightforward, kind of cut and dry way, which at the time was acceptable. But it already showed that I was willing to go out of my way because I wanted this. I was hungry. So And the footage was good. I mean, I think it was a decent sponsoring video. And I got the call back later that day saying, yeah, we want to start giving you boards.
That's what you wanted, was boards?
Yeah, that was through Santa Cruz Skateboards, and I just wanted to start getting like a board sponsor established,
Yeah.
you know, because that's your way up to building yourself up to becoming a pro. It'll be the board company that turns you pro. And so that was sort of how, you know, you get established, build a good relationship with your board sponsors. They're going to be the ones you grow with and eventually hopefully go pro for.
Yeah. You became pro when?
2005.
How old were you?
I was 19 or 20.
Who approached you and said, "Hey, you're gonna become a professional skateboarder"?
Well,
how stoked were you?
Nobody approached me like that. I knew I was on my way. I had really like done the due diligence, and I, at that point, had learned about what the process was and sort of the certain necessary things you had to check off of your, you know, amateur list before you could reach the pro ranks.
Right.
Having video parts, interviews in magazines, all these criteria that I had already met, and then some. And so I knew that eventually they were going to be making that move. I didn't know when. It's always a surprise.
Yeah.
But as far as brand marketing and as far as keeping a fresh, new, you know, approach, like it made sense for them to bring me like up in ranks. And so I had some board graphic ideas in my head that I'd been pitching their way. I had sort of been putting the idea in their head because back then, again, this isn't a 14 or this isn't a 19, 20-year-old with an agent helping navigate all these career moves. This is me thinking how to navigate this as wisely and as best as I could. And however scary it was, even from the first time I brought that sponsoring video in, I had to ask for everything. Nothing was ever handed to me. Nothing was ever just given to me. They never said, hey, like, here you go, you're on the team, this or that. I always said, hey, what's up? Like, when am I going to get put on? I've been doing all this stuff. There was really a pitch. Same with getting paid. There was never anybody that said, hey, congratulations, you made it. We're going to start paying you now. It was like, I want to sustain this lifestyle. I want to become a pro one day. I can't afford it. Can you pay me? What's the worst they could say? No.
Yeah.
They're not going to say, how dare you, you're off the team.
Yeah. Did you ask him?
Yeah, and eventually they said, well, we have this house in San Jose. You'd have to move over there. Rent's $300. We'll cover your rent, but we need you to get out of Santa Cruz, start getting familiar with the industry outside of town. There really wasn't any outside of NHS sessions, a few small brands, local shops. The majority of the industry existed in San Jose and San Francisco, so they needed to see the next step for me to show that I wanted to do it and take it serious was to get out of town.
So you moved over there.
I moved over there.
$300 rent. Did that make you a pro skateboarder?
No. I was one of the few paid AMs. That
Right.
made me like a very privileged amateur skater because most amateurs at that time didn't get paid. So to even be given a salary to cover my rent was huge, and I knew that. That was like one of those incentives that I knew was bigger than a lot of people were being offered in skateboarding, and it was also one of those things that showed me, hey, this company's really taking care of me.
Yeah.
So,
Of course, they've been doing it for 25 years, right?
20
years?
Yeah.
20 years.
Yeah.
That's a hell of a relationship with a company.
Oh my God, yeah. I mean, like I said, I think that it's been a wise, if not the wisest, move I've made in skateboarding. Was
You
just
went back to that video, didn't it?
being loyal and just, you know.
What's the two-part question? What's the best piece of advice you've gotten from somebody at Santa Cruz Skateboards?
Best piece of advice I've gotten from somebody at Santa Cruz Skateboards.
Yeah.
Shit, that's a hard one. I mean, honestly,
Yeah.
probably to stop drinking.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that however hard it was at the time for a sponsor to tell somebody like me that I needed to pull the reins, I think it took a lot of courage for them, knowing that they wanted to maintain a relationship and not like have one of those falling outs like families do.
Right.
And even though I
So
didn't,
you did. You stopped drinking.
but no. Even though I didn't heed the advice for years,
Oh, you
come,
didn't?
like no. I mean, I don't drink now.
Yeah.
But I can think back to the time when like they were genuinely concerned, and they probably, you know, had every right to be.
Yeah.
And like they would voice, this is something that we think you should do.
Yeah.
And again, they continue to support me, whatever. Even though I didn't heed that advice, but if you're really gonna ask what the best advice that like somebody there has given me, like I think genuinely from a caring perspective, that would have probably been it.
And best piece of advice you got from Richard Novak?
He thinks I should take a public speaking class and I've never taken him up on that either. But maybe I think there may be some validity to that.
To help you to do what?
Rule the world.
Oh, right.
I don't know. No.
As far as coaching, or are you talking about something?
I have no idea.
Really?
I honestly don't know. But
You
sometimes
speak
good
well.
advice. Sometimes good advice comes in just
Right.
like abstract ways, and I haven't forgotten it.
Yeah.
He
Yeah.
just threw it out there one day.
He
But
did.
yeah,
Yeah.
but I have definitely not forgotten it. Right? Like
Right.
I definitely take his words and I listen.
Yeah. So you've got 20 years of history with Santa Cruz Skateboards. What's are you sticking with him, or how long is it?
Yeah, I
Can
mean,
you be
till
with
the
it?
wheels fall off. No, honestly, I'm always flattered when my contract is renewed and when they want to keep me a part of like the main program and going out on trips and skating with the guys. It's amazing to just get to keep doing this. I don't ever take it for granted, and not that I ever did, but it just becomes more and more special. Like every trip I get to go on.
Yeah. Right. You have a trip that stands out for you?
There've been some great ones. I had an awesome one this summer. A super just amazing trip with Santa Cruz up the northwest coast.
Yeah.
Drove from here, left NHS, drove up to Vancouver, Canada, but I ended up only making it as far as Seattle for that portion, which was only 2 days. My passport was expired. I couldn't get one expedited in time.
Right.
It wasn't a big deal. I got to visit with one of my best friends growing up from Santa Cruz.
Perfect.
Spent Father's Day with him and his family. We went and hit some golf balls at this little like
nice.
Simulated golf driving
Right,
range.
right,
He works
right.
at a golf course. He's
Yeah.
an insane golfer. So it was just seriously like so serendipitous for me because I never get to visit with people on those occasions. When I'm on a skate trip and I'm with the team,
Right.
I'm with the team. I'm not bailing out. So to really get to take a couple of days and just like visit with an old friend and skate and go and hit golf balls, and like I skated a ton. We skated every day that I was with him, and he had a little RV set out in his front yard that I got to sleep in. Like
Yeah.
that was a highlight of my trip
Yeah,
almost.
yeah.
But then also we camped the majority of the rest of the time. So just you can imagine a bag full of instruments, a bunch
Yeah.
of guys around a campfire.
Right. That's the way. It's way
Good
fun.
times, man. It's really bonding. Like,
Yeah. But then now you're a dad, so
Yeah.
it's easy. It's not easy to take off and be gone. You miss your kid. And,
It is. It's not. It was harder when he was really little, though. When he was really little and I'd be gone for a couple weeks, like there'd be developmental changes that I
Yeah.
would feel like I was missing out on. Now, at 6 years old, when I'm gone for a couple of weeks, we can FaceTime. I can keep in touch.
Yeah.
I can keep tabs and know get a day by day play of how he's doing
Yeah,
and like
yeah.
how he's growing, and so it's easier now. But still, I mean, I don't think I could travel like I used to, but I definitely enjoy the time on the road that I get.
Yeah, especially when you visit someone like your buddies like that.
Oh yeah, and the
Yeah.
team, I love all the dudes. They're
Yeah.
all so good, and like, yeah, it's just a good time.
How many boards are there? Emmanuel
I'm gonna
Guzman
just
boards?
roughly say. I mean, I know there've been over 40.
Yeah.
A lot of them have been the Dining with the Dead, the sort of classic Last Supper scene. And
Did you
there've
go
been
up to that?
That was yeah. That's my baby.
Yeah.
And there have been several versions of that, but collectively, like I would say 40. I would say about 40.
Yeah. What do you see? When you walk into a place like this or Bill's or whatever? What do you? Is this like a museum to you?
Kinda. I mean, honestly, yes. I definitely love looking at all the boards hanging up. I love it when skate shops have these kinds of things.
This is your sport, and this is its history.
Totally. No,
Right.
totally. And I feel like at this point I know a lot of it. There's always cool new things to learn and to see. I've definitely been doing this most of my life and have been paying attention to the history as best as I can for
Yeah.
like most of that process. I think it's important. It's important to know where the roots of something that has, carried you through life and given you this whole new like outlook on it.
Yeah.
Just to pay attention to it, just honor it,
Yeah.
And so the same goes for the younger generations. I hope they do the same. I wonder sometimes.
Yeah.
I wonder if the younger generations will, research the history of what this thing that they have fallen in love with is,
Right.
or if the internet and the constant like new content will keep them too distracted to
Right.
go backtrack in time, because it's important.
Yeah. Your boards are selling well.
Yeah, they're selling super good. Let's
Are
see
they?
here. Are they any up in here?
I would imagine so.
I know they were sold out after that skate camp.
Oh, they were.
Yeah, so that's killer. But yeah, we have a new one that just came out that's sort of, part of their 50-year anniversary. It's all gold, it's came out amazing. It's so cool. It's one of my favorite versions of that they've done. I never thought that I would have my own board with like that gold foil. You know, it's so cool.
And your boy, what's your boy's name again?
Cairo.
That's right. Is he going to be skate?
Oh yeah, he's all about it. It's just happening organically still. I don't push it. I never will. If he wants to get into it, awesome. If not, like I just want to support him in whatever interest he has in his life. I want him to be a kid and have fun.
He's playing soccer right now, right?
Playing soccer for
not too many skaters that have a Man United tattoo on their shoulder.
Nah, they're out there though. There's Man U fans. Heck yeah.
I'm not a Man U fan.
I know.
I'm a Chelsea fan, and both teams suck right now.
They do, but it's all right. Good on us.
That's all right. We still enjoy the sport.
Besides, you know the old sayings, but keep your friends close, keep your enemies closer.
That's right. That's right. So where you talk about the program? What you talk about it is you had a program that you were going to start right before COVID hit. COVID hit, and then it was obviously.
I was in the process of like launching. First of its kind high school skateboard program through the Santa Cruz County Office of Ed, and it was going to be like a curricular-based course. So we were going to use skateboarding as the focus, but we were also going to offer marketing, sales, skate park design and construction.
Right.
You know, there's going to be photography, video production, all these like fields of industry within.
Yeah.
And things that kids aren't typically encouraged to pursue within the industry outside of becoming a professional.
Yeah.
Which is unlikely, and so it's sort of one of those courses to just bring that reality. Vocational courses like, hey, you're about to graduate, or you're in high school now, you're about to be thrown out into the real world, kind of an unfairly so in a lot of ways, because you'll have a lot of people deterring you against pursuing skateboarding, telling you won't make a living. What they're not telling you is that, oh, I didn't realize you love photography. Did you know that skateboard photography is a huge, business?
Yeah.
And did you know that apparel designing is a huge business? Like, oh, you're into fashion? I didn't know that. I just thought that you were into skating, and I didn't think there was hope for you. I don't hear your friends talking about
There's a lot of different avenues that come off skateboarding.
And honestly, 9 out of 10 times, even your own teachers aren't going to encourage you in that direction.
Right.
So I kind of wanted to offer something that was really going to encourage both guys and girls.
You gonna relight that fire again, do you think?
I mean, it's going to take some funding, of course, and then there's going to obviously have to be a space, a good facility, and both of those things have been a lot harder to come by than I thought. I mean, I think to a lot of people, they see this as like a philanthropical venture. They know that it's good for the community and it would do really good, but they're not necessarily willing to put their dollar behind it because they don't see it as a moneymaker.
Right.
But I think that nothing is a moneymaker right out of the gate. It takes time, but starting with something that's doing good by the community is a really awesome business to invest in my opinion.
Yeah.
And this is one of those few untouched niches that I'm not going to let anybody else do it in the area, but I would certainly, like to expedite this long-term dream if I could.
And anybody watching wants to get a hold of you, how can they do that?
Well, they can obviously email me at emmanuelguzman11@gmail. That's a good start to just brainstorm ideas. I know that I've been in touch with a lot of other teachers over time.
Your website?
I don't have a website, but they can contact me there or at emangrizzle1 on Instagram. I'm also on Facebook. There's a lot of other, there's social media outlets that I can be contacted pretty easily. Emails, professional if people really have legitimate input or insight. But yeah, at this point I have my whole business plan drawn out. It's literally a 30-page business plan. It's a matter of finding a space and having the right moment in time to just execute it. But
would the city help you find it or no?
It's not something I want to do on a public avenue anymore, unfortunately, because that's one of the reasons that I didn't get to see that through the first time was that because of COVID, the city pulled the rug out from under us.
Yeah.
And that was one of my concerns was that, here's this program I'm offering and I'm doing all this groundwork and I'm going to be raising the money to essentially be paying myself to be able to do this. I'm doing everything. And then they decide, well, it's too risky with COVID. We're just going to stick to our structured game plan. So we're putting it on hold for the time being after 6 months of
I hope you get it back going again.
I would love to. And like I said, the skate camp this summer was a good introduction as to how I was going to receive actually working with kids, and I loved it, and I can definitely see myself doing this. I mean, it's definitely a calling, but I think in the meantime, I'll just have to keep grinding away at what I have in front of me, and if and when the right opportunity strikes, I would love to do it though.
So the two kids that were a little nervous when they came to you for the first day.
Yeah, there was a few. There was a few kids.
There was a few kids. They made it. They all made it. And had a great
time.
They
did. A little
stoked.
pep talk, just a little encouragement, just telling them, you know, showing up is awesome. Like, don't beat yourself up. Don't let this ruin your day. Give yourself another chance. See what it's all about. And they all did, and they all ended up, you know, really, really like not just improving on their skateboards, but their confidence just skyrocketed. And they went from being some of the like more down kids to like the more stoked kids, better attitudes, you know.
Did your confidence skyrocket too?
Honestly, it was interesting for me because here I am. I have every kid set a goal at the beginning of every week, right? And I wasn't lollygagging out there. Like when they had snack, I'd go out and skate for them. I'd show them what 29 years of skateboarding looked like, what stacking and getting back up looked like, you know.
Stacking is
slamming, eating shit. Like, so I'm falling for them, and I'm showing them what that looks like too. That even after 29 years, I still fall all the time. After 29 years, though, I can utilize the skate pretty much everything in the skate park that I want when I want, and it's a lot of fun. And then of course they would call me out because you do this, do that, do this, do that. So that in itself was like the kind of setting where normally at a demo or something, I'm not going to do that for kids, but in this setting, I'm asking them to step out of their comfort zone, for them to reciprocate that and ask me to step out of what they're not even realizing is my comfort zone. Was awesome because I was like, yeah, you want me to grind that? Sure, I'll grind it for you. To the point of where the last day of camp, I'm like, I really need to think of something to do. Something that I'm like intimidated to try in front of these kids, let alone just try. I might make it, I might not, but I'm going to show them that if they can step up, like so can I, right? So I set up the sign that I used for the camp every week, and then kickflipped over it, but they got to see me try it a good like 10 times before I made it, and I took a couple good slams, like got good raspberries. But then when I made it, they got to see, hey, eventually it came, like don't give up. So
was injury something you avoid discussing with them?
No, definitely not. No, totally not. No, we have to talk about injury. We have to talk about how to be safe because I don't want to deal with a bunch of injuries.
You've got a couple of bumps and bruises.
Tons. And I don't care if it's me. If I'm breaking my arm, I don't care. I don't want to see any of those kids break their arms. You know, so safety was huge. I really wanted them to all be very like patient and waiting to do something when I was there to supervise. Even if it meant waiting, I didn't want them to just go and get too courageous without me, because that's when things happen, and that's typically when kids would slam. So I was really encouraging them, like, hey, if you see me working with somebody else, just wait. If you want to try that, I'll be there in a second. I need to work with this person. I'm trying to help them not fall. And then there was only one major injury, and the poor kid, he was so close to doing the trick, and I get it. Like I stepped away for a second to work with somebody, and he went ahead and tried it, and slipped back and broke his wrist, and he handled it like a trooper. He handled it so well, I was blown away. But still, it was another one of those examples that I was like, I was trying to really keep everyone like, you know, remembering, don't try it without me, don't try it without me. Is it fresh in their head? So the next day I used that again, like, hey, somebody got hurt yesterday, it's unfortunate, but I just want everyone today to really think twice before they try something if I'm not able to help. You don't get this very often. Take advantage of it. Let's build your confidence before I'm like not here. Before this week is up and you're on your own. So that was cool. And literally, I mean, out of 50 kids to have one injury.
And 50 kids
over the course of the summer. One injury. I mean,
nothing, right?
That's near perfect. That's 100% my book right there. It's like that's a casualty, and he did it for the better of everybody because his parents sent me a photo of him later on, biggest smile in his thing. He's already asking if he could skate again. That was a proud moment right there.
Did you tell the kids who you were?
No, not really. I mean, a little bit. I introduced them a little bit. Some of them knew who I was. Some of the older kids knew who I was, and they were excited to get to skate with me. But no, that wasn't the point. The point was really for them. If they did know who I was, awesome. If they didn't, then through the course of the week and seeing me skate and seeing how I work with them and seeing that I actually am a pretty like easygoing person. I have a kid. I know how to be gentle. Everybody got really comfortable with me, and that helped them to really like step their confidence up and being just comfortable to work with me, right? From the littlest kids to the biggest kids, like, and And so that was pretty cool.
Proud of you, Coach.
Thanks. Yeah,
Good
no,
job.
it was different than coaching. It was like I don't know. I don't even know what to call it. It
You're an
was like
instructor.
like mentor. You know,
Yeah.
like it was cool.
You're a role model, instructor. You were all in one.
Yeah, no, it was a lot.
Yeah, it was
a
fun,
lot.
though, huh?
It was exhausting, you know. But hey,
Thank you.
thanks, Neil.
Yeah, thanks, buddy. I appreciate your time. Always good to see you.
Likewise. Same.
And sorry TC's not here, but he had
all
something
right.
to do, but we can talk a little bit.
Here in spirit.
He's here in spirit. I'll turn that off and I'll take a photo.
Thank you, everyone.
All right, thanks for watching, everybody. That was Emmanuel Guzman. The show will be on YouTube a little bit later on this evening, and it'll be on all kinds of podcast platforms. Stay tuned. A bunch of music coming up, so stay tuned for that. Once again, thanks for listening. This has been the Off the Lip Radio Show.